name. Somebody said, as a pilot, I think the airport fees are a good thing. Um, somebody said my
That's
main.
interesting. That's the first person I've ever heard say that.
Boom! What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Joannis or Joe Hatagwa. I'm a Sierra Leonean American now living in West Africa. And if you want to know what I think about the issues plaguing Sierra Leone right now, then this is the video for you. Okay, so today's video is a little unconventional. I'm actually going to take a live from Instagram and I'm going to put it here on YouTube. So I went live with Admire from Sierra Leoneans Killing It. And in that discussion, we talked about a number of different things plaguing Sierra Leone right now, from electricity to the new fees and the tickets to unemployment and to the minimum wage. I mean, we covered a lot. And so in this discussion, we talked about the issues and we talked about solutions. So anyway, without further ado, let's just jump right into it.
No
We're
worries, no
here.
worries.
Una kushe, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Usaiba una day. This is my friend Joe. Make sure you guys follow his page as well. He's one of the great guests that are gonna fill us in because a lot of us don't know what's really going on. He's in Sierra Leone. He's been living there, so he's gonna give you guys the rundown. He's gonna give all of us the rundown about the fees and all of that. So Joe, go ahead and introduce yourself while I fix this tripod.
Sounds good. I will do. So what's up, guys? I know the charm I'm fine. The Creole, so I'm gonna speak English. Even though I'm here, I speak English. So first of all, what's up, Zinga? I see Zinga in the building. Zinga lives in LA, Emmy Award winning, extended family. So shout out to Zinga. So yeah, my name is Joannis or Joe Hatagwa. I am Sierra Leonean American, Mende Creole, born and raised in the U.S., live in Sierra Leone right now. I run a platform called Authentic African. So we're on everything: Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, any social media platform. We're there. I have a social media agency, so I help brands run their social media and grow their social media. And then I also have this platform where I'm bringing the diaspora and Africans together. I do focus from time to time on Sierra Leone content because I'm here right now and this is important. And many of the subscribers on YouTube are Sierra Leonean or in the diaspora. And so I do spend a lot of time talking about these things. I go live every Monday, and in those lives, I sometimes talk about news stories. And so the Sierra Leone airport fees was a news story I reported on twice previously. So when I saw that Admire was going to do this live, I wanted to jump on and add anything that I could potentially add. As someone who's traveled in and out of Sierra Leone 5 times in the last 2 years, 6 times in the last 2 years, and then also having known a lot of people who traveled in and out. So we are all feeling the fees, and so it's helpful to understand where they're coming from and what they are.
Right. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you. I know you're busy. I appreciate you for coming on and doing this for us.
Absolutely. Listen, it's about Sierra Leone, so I'm always down to do whatever I can to help offer any insight or support Sierra Leone. I mean, I love obviously what you've been doing with Sierra Leoneans Killing It. If you guys want to see Joe 30 pounds heavier or 15 kilos heavier, watch the live that me and Maya did back during the pandemic, the early days of the pandemic in 2020. It was like July 2020, I think. Man, I went back and watched that. First of all, my beard was crazy. I was 30 pounds heavier. Since then, a lot has changed. But anyway, and I'd love to see what you've done since then because it was great to have been on at that time, and I'm really proud of what you've done with the platform too. So with that, I have on my screen. It may be hard to see. But this was the presentation I went through when I went live previously. Because it's Instagram, I have to like show it on my screen. I had to do a lot of stuff to flip it around because it's the front-facing camera. But anyway, you'll be able to see it here. Yeah. So the first things first is last year, a memo leaked. So this was a memo, an internal memo within the government of Sierra Leone, SLPP. So you could tell it was a memo leak because it says, "Dear Sir or Madam." Normally, it's addressed to the general public, It's not addressed to an individual person, right? So clearly this was an internal memo looking to figure out what to do with the fees. And it felt like there was already a decision being made. It was just communicating that internally. So that's the first thing. So this leaked, and a lot of news outlets, especially Sierra Leonean ones, picked it up, including myself. I reposted it to everyone because I know people who come in and out of the country all the time. And so there was a lot of misinformation that went out when this came out.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first thing was that everybody assumed that all the fees that we're about to go over were fees that you individually need to pay at the airport, which is not the case. I just want to start with that. I don't want to bury the lead. That is the main thing, is that you still have to pay these fees, don't get me wrong, but you're not taking cash out to pay it at the airport. So that's the number one thing that you should know.
That's what I thought.
Now, yeah, it's a lot of fees though. So you're still paying them, you're just not paying at the airport. Let's go through them, because it doesn't mean that they're not fees, they're there. Yeah. So really, there are different ways to look at it, but basically this airport was built. There are fees associated with the construction and the continued maintenance of the airport, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And so basically this memo was describing how one group was paying for those fees and now another group is paying for those fees. In either instance, that gets passed on to the user who's actually buying the ticket. Oh. So it was a memo saying that this group is no longer paying these fees, which would have passed on to us anyway buying tickets. It's this other group that's now paying the fees, which still gets passed on to us buying the tickets. So that was what the communication, the internal memorandum was about, right? Mm-hmm. Now this listed, I don't know if you can really see it here.
Yeah, we can see it.
Basically, okay, you can see it. So it lists the charges here. So there's the passenger service charge, there's the airport development charge, there's the airport safety fee, there's the air navigation charge. So all these charges, some of them had a zero charge previously and then has a new charge. So like you'll see it was 25, now it's 35. It was 5, now it's either 100 or another additional dollar every year for 33 years, right? So it's 100 this year, it'll be 101 next year, it'll be 102 in 2026, right? So it goes up every year. Mm-hmm. The next one was a $0 fee, now it's $65. And the next one here was $0 and now it's $20, okay. Right? So these are all fees that are now included in the ticket. So, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. But that is really what this was describing, was all these fees are fees that we still will incur when buying your ticket. So tickets are already expensive to come to Sierra Leone. My mom just bought a ticket over $2,000. It was a little over a month and a half out. And it was over $2,000, and that was pre-March 1st. So you can imagine after March 1st, which is now and moving forward, these fees apply.
Yeah.
So any thoughts or any questions on that before I move on?
Yeah. So since you don't, because I thought that you paid at the airport, but since you don't pay it at the airport, how does the payment work?
So it's in your ticket price. So like anywhere you book your ticket online, your price is going to have, so like if you ever go to like Ethiopian Airlines, Brussels Airlines, when you check out, there's usually like a list of just the major fees. And then sometimes you can even do like a drop down arrow to see a full list of fees. Most people don't do that. They just pay for the ticket and move on. If you look at that, you'll just have these lists of fees that will be there. And it'll have each price associated with it. So you'll have like the ticket fee, right? Which is normally what you see at first. And then with Sierra Leone, it's always interesting, right? Because you have your ticket fee and then there's a much different fee at the bottom because they have all the different taxes and things. Yeah. So that's what it'll be. It's like, this is the cost to fly. And then these are all the fees associated with it. It's like the taxes and service charges that you see with anything else, but there's just a lot more of them and they're more expensive. So you'll see it when you're purchasing your ticket. When you arrive, the only fee you pay is the security fee, which is a $25 fee. You pay that to enter the country. You pay that to leave the country. That is not exclusive to Sierra Leone, although it's new to Sierra Leone. Gambia has a similar fee as well. So it's not as if we're the only country that does it. It is a new fee, though, that people aren't used to paying because, like, what is the security fee people are talking about? But it is a fee you have to pay. So the only fee you pay out of pocket to the airport when you first arrive is the $25 fee. And you also must pay it to leave the country. So $50 coming in and coming out, right? $25 to come in, $25 to go out.
Okay. I'm glad you mentioned the security fee because somebody said, what about the airport security fee that is paid in cash at the airport? So he covered that up. God's perfect God's perfect plan. I hope you heard him. Thank you so much for clearing that up. So one more question just to really understand. So let's say I'm looking for tickets right now and the ticket that I'm looking for is 2000 for round trip. In that 2000, in that price, is it included or is going to be an extra 440?
Yes. Well, so when you check out, that's when you know how much your ticket's going to cost, right? Once you go to the checkout, so what happens a lot is like, let's say you search on Kayak,
Mm-hmm.
right? So Kayak is a third-party site. So Kayak sometimes will just put like 1,500. Then you go to the airline's website, and that price goes from 1,500 to 2,000
Got it.
whatever, right?
Okay.
Or like 1,550 or 1,000, I guess 1,700, whatever. If you use this example with the 200 plus. So it's you and you once you pay with your credit card, that's the total price, right? It'll
Yeah.
be right at the checkout.
Okay.
Ken Nyambe was asking, what's the guarantee that they won't ask you at the airport the corruption in that country? Um, so I think what okay, I don't know what anybody can ask you for, but what you are obligated to pay is going to be in the ticket and $25. So if anybody asks you for anything, you can ignore them, which is what you're going to do anyway, because there's going to be a lot of people asking you for a lot of things.
Right.
And when you're coming through Lunge, you have to do your best job of ignoring, right? There's people asking to grab your bags. There's people who ask you want to change money. There's people who ask if you need a SIM card. Now, if you need those things, go do it. But in general, if you don't need that, like if you have everything you need, like when I come to the country, I usually don't need to change money. I usually don't need to get a SIM card. So I don't need to, so I can kind of just ignore all those things. And I also can carry all my own bags.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'll just have to ignore.
Thank you so much for breaking that down because in the comments when I seen the post, a lot of people really thought what I thought too, like you're gonna pay in cash
Yeah.
and then as you're leaving you have to pay in cash. But hope you guys understand what Joe just broke down. If you guys have any questions, because I'm done with the questions regarding that. If you guys have any questions, please comment below in the comment section. I'll read it. Somebody said thank you. I think you answered their question. Um, okay,
Okay.
Said so. Why the changes? Can you please address how the new airport was funded? Because I'm sure it has a lot to do with these fees.
Right. So many things on the continent, it's done on a loan program. So most never does the government pay in full price for anything, and that's anywhere on the continent of Africa. That's pretty much anywhere in the world, right? When you're dealing with large financial transactions, most of the time you do it based on debt. So like for instance, we have the toll gates. These toll gates. There's 4 toll gates between Freetown and Bow,
Mhm.
right? You have the Hastings, and I can't remember all the rest of them. I always forget them. With each one, the people who built the road, which if I'm not mistaken, it was a Chinese company that built the road, right? They kind of redid the whole road. Those toll booths are in place to pay them back for building the road all the way to Bow, right? So, and they take almost, I don't know what percentage of the fee they take, but they take a large percentage, if not all of it, until I think it's 25 years or something like that.
Mhm.
Don't quote me on the exact amount of time, but is an extended period of time that they're taking those fees. So that we didn't just pay outright and say, hey, can you just build these roads for us and just pay cash? We as the government of Sierra Leone, because they don't collect enough in taxes in order to pay that.
Right.
They may get money from other places that they could potentially use to pay it, World Bank and others, but they don't. They use it for other projects, let's say. So they basically do it based on debt. So the airport was paid based on that. I don't know how much it costs to build the airport. I'm sure you can find that somewhere.
Right.
I do know that there was a Turkish company that built the airport, and I went to Istanbul's airport, and their airport was pristine. It was one of the best airports I've ever seen. And same thing with Lunge. Actually, the airport in Lunge right now is much better than other airports you'll see in West Africa. Much smaller, but really, really nice. It's brand new. So they're going to want to get paid for that. And so they do it through different things. So what ends up happening in this situation is those fees get passed on to us, when we purchase our tickets to help them pay it back. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. Let me see if anybody else had commented any questions. So,
There was a question here, like, are these fees unique to Sierra Leone or this poor financial planning? I guess I kind of answered that, but it's specific to the airport, right? These fees are specific to paying back, I think, for the brand new airport. Now, if the airport's paid back in full, are there still going to be fees in place? I don't know. Maybe. Who likes to decrease the prices if they've already increased the price? So this may go on in perpetuity. It may always be these kinds of fees or different versions of these fees. Who knows?
thank you. I think that's it for the questions. I have a question though, because this this guy, I reached out to him. He said there's some other issues. Being that you are in Sierra Leone, what are some other issues that are going on? He had vented, like he posted it, and I reached out to him and told him that
Yeah.
I would love for him to come on today. But he said that where he is, there is no electricity. Power went out, and his phone isn't
Well, there
charged.
you go.
So I don't know if he's
Yeah.
gonna be able to join us, but could you tell us some other issues that are going on currently in Sierra Leone?
Sure. I mean, and most of them are persistent issues, right? So specifically that one, right? He said he couldn't join because he had no electricity. So, challenges with power is a big challenge. It's not exclusive to Sierra Leone, but it is a problem here, right? I gave in and had to get a generator, right? I didn't want to get a generator. I was trying to do solar, but I had to get a generator because there were a couple days where I had no internet. So now I've done some investigative journalism around why I specifically didn't have certain amounts of power. So from a high level, I've also talked about this before. From a high level, the city was not, the electrical grid as it currently stands was not necessarily built to manage this much demand, right? You have to imagine there are 3 times as many people in the capital city, maybe even 4 times as many people in the capital city as was when the grid was even created in the first
Mm-hmm.
place, right? So that can just give you an idea of the challenges. Also, when it was built, there weren't this many devices, right? Like I currently have a fan plugged in, a laptop plugged in, a monitor plugged in, a refrigerator, a stove, bunch of phones. Like I have a lot of stuff plugged in, and that's just one house, right? So imagine how many other houses have so many devices that are now drawing energy.
Yeah.
And because we don't have that much energy, they have to load shed, right? Now, in some countries, when they load shed, they'll tell you your part of the grid is going to be off for these hours. Your part of the grid is going to be off for these hours. That is not how it works here, right? You just get surprised when it goes out. You get surprised when it comes back on. So that's the general issue.
Mm-hmm.
The other issue is that in your specific area, there is what they call a transformer, which is like it takes from the major grid and then it distributes power to your local area, right? Many of those transformers are either old or refurbished, reused, and they break a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
our transformer always goes down. So people who are in the general vicinity, we're all supposed to be getting light. Their transformer is fine. They're still getting light because there's not a lot of people over there. Where I am right now, a lot more people are coming to this area. A lot more people are building. A lot more people using energy, and my transformer breaks like twice a month and I'll be out of power sometimes 3 days, sometimes 2 days, whatever. The other day I was out of power for about 17 hours straight. And so I had my generator on for 6 hours, then like 1 or 2 hours off, then another 6 hours and 1 or 2 hours off. So that's one of the challenges, right? It's just power.
Yeah.
And that has issues across the board. You can't study. Like I used to have study hours 7 to 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
It was at dark. It was in the dark. It was in Pennsylvania and New York. So I could study at night. Imagine not having light to study, right?
Right.
You also incur additional costs. Like I have to pay for fuel. I've now refilled my generator. I've had it 4 weeks. I've refilled it 4 times
Oh wow.
with 25 liters 4 times in 4 weeks. I've also had to change the motor oil out once, on it. And so there's just additional fees that it's going to cost you outside of the fact that the electricity goes fast. It runs fast when
Yeah.
you're on EDSA.
Yeah.
Then when it's off and you're using a generator, that can go fast. So there are fees that the average person just can't handle or take on. You
Yeah.
know, if you've gone and bought a generator to be able to keep up your generator, it's too difficult. If you don't have a generator, then life is challenging because you build your life around no light. So, you know, that's challenging if you're a person who likes to take shower with warm water. Figuring out how to get warm water is a thing. If you like use devices that plug into the wall, like I use a laptop. My laptop has about a 3-hour battery life. When light's gone for more than 3 hours, I gotta go to a hotel to charge my laptop so that I can use my laptop and continue to work.
Wow.
If you have, think about this, people pay for Wi-Fi at home.
Yeah.
So a lot of people pay for the router at home. Well, the router at home doesn't have a battery in it. It plugs into the wall. So if you got no light, you got no internet at home. So that means that you have to incur an additional cost of buying a MiFi. So not everybody can afford to have this MiFi, which I use this because it has a battery in it. So if light goes out, I can still stay online. Thank goodness it hasn't gone out since we've been in this conversation. But if that happens, I can stay online. And so there's just additional costs you incur just to live your everyday life for most people.
Wow.
So that's the light issue. There are many other issues. Should I go into another?
Yeah.
Okay. So light is one. And so, you know, obviously for somebody like myself, I have multiple streams of income. I'm finding ways to pay for all these things. Luckily for me, I have skill sets that allow me to do that. And I don't rely on a full-time job in Sierra Leone in order to pay my bills because a lot of jobs also don't pay.
Yeah.
So there are specific roles. For instance, a person I know in the medical field hadn't been paid for 6 months. And she worked at a hospital. She was a nurse. She worked at a hospital and hadn't been paid for 6 months.
Wow.
My caretaker is a mechanic. He hadn't been paid at one point in time for 4 months. Now, on top of all of that, the minimum wage is the average wage because nobody pays more than the minimum wage if you don't have to. That's about $50 a month. Around about $50 a month is the minimum wage here. So it's also very hard to live off $50 a month in this country. Now, everything is lower in price generally, but there are some things that they import. We import onions from Guinea. We in the capital city, we get most of our fruit from the outer provinces. So you're paying for them to transport it in. So you're paying higher for like fruits and vegetables and things like that. So your overall cost can be a little bit higher for certain types of foods. And so if the average person is making $50 a month, they cannot cover the cost of everything. And when I say $50 a month, that is not also the amount because the Sierra Leone goes up and down in its value, mostly down. So an example of this is there's a company that I know who reports their revenue to outside investors in dollars, right? So then they're talking to outside investors, they report to them in dollars. So these companies will invest in them and say, you know, we like this business idea you have in Sierra Leone, we're going to invest in your business. They report in dollars, but they collect money in leones. So even though from one year to the next year they sold more of their product, they actually made less money.
Wow.
Because people are paying them for their products in leones, and the leone value went down. So even though they sold double the amount of products, it looks like they made half the revenue, which is crazy.
That is.
So that is a big challenge. So the fluctuation in money, the minimum wage is low, and the wage of most people is pretty bad. And then the just the cost of everyday living and the electricity issue is a challenge for many people. And so, yeah, those are some of the main challenges that people have. There's also the challenge of getting a job, right? What work is actually available.
Yeah.
And the big issue here is this. We're dealing with a country with about between 7 and 9 million people. We don't know what the exact number is because when you do a census, not everybody fills it out, whatever. So let's say it's 8 million people. 8 million people might sound like a lot, but like to give you context, there are more people who are registered to vote in the city of Lagos, Nigeria, than there are total people in the country of Sierra Leone.
Wow.
Right? So just to give context to the size of the total country. So why is that a problem? Well, not a problem, but why does that lead to challenges in terms of the private sector? If the average person makes $50 a month, and you only have 8 million people, that means you have a very small subset of people who can be customers for any business.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever businesses that you have, you're only going to have a certain subset of people who can actually afford your business. And then you can only grow to so much because there's only so many people in this country. So that means that there aren't a lot of private sector companies in the country that are like big that can pay a lot of money. That also means that there aren't a lot of franchises that are in other countries that would come here.
Mm-hmm.
So like Burger King is in Ghana. Pizza Hut is in Ghana because they're over 35 million people. Um, but like Sierra Leone is not going to get a Burger King or Pizza Hut anytime soon.
Yeah.
Because for them, they don't see the cost benefit analysis of hiring employees, bringing a business here, training people, and then just to have like one or two customers a day, right? So because of that, you have very few businesses, like private sector businesses, that scale big enough to hire large organizations. Most of the businesses here that are big are NGOs and nonprofits. And many of them hire outside people in senior leadership. They do not, a lot of times, train from within and people grow up into these roles. A lot of times you'll have Nigerians or even Sierra Leoneans that are from the diaspora. I mean, I have, I think, 4 different friends that are like country managers for different NGOs or nonprofits,
Mm-hmm.
and they grew up outside of Sierra Leone, went to college outside of Sierra Leone, would come here to visit, but now they live here and they're in those senior leadership positions. So most people are relegated to like entry level roles, and there's very few of those. There's not enough of those for the number of people who need jobs. And so that's the other challenge that you have. And then also, an NGO is usually predicated on something negative. So, like, I had a friend who worked for an NGO that got big because of Ebola, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was huge. It was, in 7 countries, if I'm not mistaken, couple of hundred employees. It was like a big NGO. But obviously, when you fix the Ebola issue, you don't need to have that many employees anymore.
Yeah.
Now, good or bad, the pandemic came, the global sickness, COVID came, and when that occurred, this company grew again, but then to a limited size and scale. And then eventually it had to close because COVID is no longer a thing, and there's no other epidemic or pandemic that they are servicing at this point in time.
Right.
So now it's just kind of like they've gone out of business. So that happens a lot with the NGOs. Is that if the problem is solved, they go away.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the goal, is for them to solve their problem, or it just goes away on its own and they're no longer needed. So then that puts a lot of people out of work.
Wow.
I had a driver, friend of mine, associate, I would say, who worked for that NGO. And he was there with them for 4 years, and as soon as they went out of business, he couldn't find a job anywhere else. He's still not working. He's trying to find things, odds and ends, but this thing closed in December.
That's crazy.
He was given his walking papers in December. It's March now.
Wow.
So, these are some of the major issues that you have in the country. Now, there are small solutions for each challenge that I also want to go over. But I mean, I said a lot just now. I've been talking a lot. Do you have any thoughts, or are there any comments right now from the crowd? I haven't been checking.
The only issue I knew of course, is the power and also the jobs, because I have a little brother who I talk to a lot, and he's always looking for a job and he cannot find a job. And so I get
Yeah.
frustrated with him, but it's like, as you're talking, I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Like, a lot of these things I didn't know at all. So thank you so much for like sharing all this with us. Before you go into the solutions, let me read some comments, because a lot of people have been engaging. Someone said,
Yeah, sure.
if God wanted me to be in Africa or India, I would have been born there in the first place. I don't know. I don't know what. Let me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, brother.
Somebody said, this is very informative. I knew some of this, but your input is really putting perspective. So thank you. Exactly my point. Um, Somebody else said, I usually walk wherever I go. Sometimes I'll drive. if I need to get something heavy like groceries. If I have to fly there, then I don't need to go there. So no airport fees for me. Ataya Sef. Um,
Okay.
somebody else said, I think we are getting to 10 to 11 million people in Sierra Leone.
11?
Yeah, 10 to 11. Let me see who
Okay.
else commented.
I haven't seen that number, but that's possible. I mean, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. When you look at the census numbers, I think the most recent census said, I think 8 million, 7 to 8 million, something like
Yeah.
that.
Fode Biro said, Authentic African is giving out a real confirmed source about the country when it comes to employing our brothers and sisters. Um, somebody said, great conversation. It's so important to address the solutions, which I am looking forward to hearing. Thank you. I cannot say her name. Nzing Blake. Nzinga Blake. She said that.
Zynga, that's Zynga.
Yeah.
The N is silent.
Oh. I'm over here butchering
It's
her
like
name.
Queen
I'm so
Zynga.
sorry.
She's named after the queen, the former African queen, one of our famous, like a Mansa Musa type figure
I'm
from way
so
long time
sorry,
ago in
man, if I'm
history.
butcher your name. Somebody said, as a pilot, I think the airport fees are a good thing. Um, somebody said my
That's
main
interesting. That's the first person I've ever heard say that.
right. My main issue is the lack of property rights. It's a thing that is stopping people like me, born in the diaspora, from investing. What are your thoughts about that? Because I've
Yeah,
heard a lot about that.
yeah. Yeah, so I'm of two minds on investing in Sierra Leone in particular. So let's start with the negative, let's go to the positive. Okay, everything I mentioned about the size of the country makes it difficult to invest in like businesses,
Hmm.
right? Because you're gonna have a finite number of people that you can service, right? Any business. But it doesn't mean that certain businesses don't have a good return because that they can also because there's not a lot of competition or not a lot of good competition, you can have a business that can be like a monopoly that like does all the business. I have a friend who has a clothing business that has done upwards of $6,000 in top line revenue in a week selling clothes. Now the margins are not so great, but selling clothes, $6,000 a week. I don't know a lot of people who have businesses anywhere who generate $6,000 a week, like as a small business,
Right.
you know. So, and she was doing that. That's obviously in December, but she used to do that monthly at one point in time, and now she was doing that weekly. And so, and it's just going to continue to grow. So, and because she's one of the biggest or one of the best for sourcing certain types of clothes that people don't really find here, she found a niche and is like growing that, right?
Yeah.
So there are some businesses you can invest in that can do well or run your own business. I will say though, when it comes to buying land, you cannot buy land cheaper with a higher upside than on the continent of Africa. Maybe somewhere in Asia, I'm sure, in Latin America, sure. But if you are watching this, you are likely of Sierra Leonean descent or interested in Sierra Leone. And so this is somewhere that you can buy land for much cheaper than it would cost anywhere else. And the return on that investment can be crazy. 20 years down the line, 30 years down the line, you can really, really make um, a huge profit.
Yeah.
So, for example, I purchased land, or I and family members. I always have to say that it wasn't just me; it was a collective. Well, two of us bought land together in Bo, and we bought 6 acres 5 acres for a little over $6,000, right? Now, I don't know where you can be in the world where you can buy, for example, me and some friends bought 1 acre of land in Seattle, not even Seattle, right outside of Seattle, 1 acre of land with a little house on it. And at the time of the purchase, it was $420,000, right? So
Wow.
$420,000 in 2016 outside of Seattle, which is not like the most densely populated city,
Wow.
versus 5 acres of land for $6,000,
Right.
right? And I will be able to sell town lots for $6,000, which I have 50 town lots, right? I'll be able to sell town lots for $6,000 in 15 years.
Hmm.
right? Just judging by how things have progressed so far to this point.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think that there are lots of benefits to a developing country like this, and especially with so many people having disparaging remarks, it means that there's more available to you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you come up on $5,000, maybe you are one of those people that claims all your sister's kids or something, and you get your tax return, you get like 6,000. Don't go buy a Gucci
Right.
bag or whatever, Louis. Invest in land here.
Yeah.
Buy land. But you have to think with the long term. You know, obviously it's not going to be 10 years. It's not going to be 20 years. It might be 20 years. It might be 30 years. But that time is going to go by anyway. And why not increase your net worth in that process?
Yeah.
So for me, I see in real estate as the best investment, and not just here, but other countries on the continent of Africa. South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria are all places. Ghana, of course, are all places where you can buy land and really come up.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, I think the idea of investing in real estate is really important, and don't let people tell you and deter you from that. You know, you'll figure out how to build on the land and all of that, but if you can buy the land legitimately and get all the proper documentation, there's no better place.
Right.
As someone who owns land in 2 countries, it's a huge difference. Now, it's cash out of pocket. Don't get me wrong. You know, I didn't get a loan for this land. We paid cash out of pocket. And in the States, we still paid cash out of pocket. I put $10,000 of my own dollars into the house in Seattle. And the return on that's going to be good too, but we invested smartly. But yeah, so that's the answer to that question. Are there any more questions before I go into some of the other solutions? I didn't want to make it seem like I was just complaining.
Yes.
I do want to go
that
through
was a
solutions
good
in a
point.
second.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
People have been commenting. So somebody said, so with all the changes and fees, people's baggages are still getting tampered with. Can we comment on this? Because I've heard a lot of people complaining about it.
Yeah.
Somebody else,
Yeah.
somebody said, my main issue is the lack of property rights. Oh wait, I already read that comment. Troy had said something.
Well, the baggage fees, the baggage issues, let me talk about that.
Okay.
So, anywhere you travel to, you want to lock your bags. All right? Lock them bags. A lot of Sierra Leoneans wrap their bags and lock their bags. A lot of Africans in general, right?
Yeah.
So you'll go to like many of these African airports. Like I was in Tanzania, they have it where they just wrap it with like a giant saran wrap type thing. That really deters people from tampering. But if you just get a lock, just lock it. You lock your bag, people can't get in it. They're not breaking locks now. They might open a bag that's already open, but they're not breaking locks to get into bags. That I have not seen. So if you lock it, I think that solves that challenge. No matter where you go, I'm talking about anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
In general, I've traveled to 20.
That's common courtesy, like just to be cautious.
Yeah, yeah. So I would say that. There was something else that you just read. Sorry, I didn't even.
It's okay. Yeah, Troy Masai said, what are the airport fees being used for? Will it be distributed to solve other issues?
Nope. I think it's going right back to paying for the airport because it wasn't bought in.
He had already.
It wasn't bought in cash.
Thank you for joining, Troy. He had already given us like a rundown on everything, like broke down like what the fees are and or what it's for and all of that. So when I end the live, you can go back and watch from the beginning. He really like elaborated on it all. Let me see if anybody else had asked anything.
Does my hair look crazy? I'm trying to see. I didn't even look. I didn't even.
No, you're fine.
like 29 other people aren't watching while we're talking. Anyway, what was some of the other comments? Let me see if I see anything.
Let me see. I heard it's difficult to buy land in Sierra Leone. Who did you talk to and how did you go about it?
Hear me?
Hello?
Yeah, I know you. I think you froze, but I might have been on my end. It might be my connection.
Okay, someone said thank you very much. Very informative. And then somebody asked, Troy said thank you. And then somebody else asked you, hold on, let me go to it. I heard it's difficult to buy land in Sierra Leone. Who did you talk to and how did you go about it?
It's a great question. So, it's not difficult to buy. Okay, let me see. It's easy to buy land, but it's not simple. And I used to say this about different things, and it's confusing to people. So what I mean is, you can grab land easily. The process requires some knowledge. I actually have a consulting service, by the way. If you guys want to do hourly consulting with me, I can consult you through the process. But here's the basics. In the capital city, in general, you're just buying from an individual, and you need to make sure you have a surveyor come out and survey the land, and you get a conveyance that actually says that the city recognizes that you have now ownership of this land. That's the basics. Outside of the capital city, you have chieftaincies, and you have a town chief, section chief, paramount chief, and all the members of the family have to all agree and sign the documents. It's very important. Very, very important, because there might be 5 people who can claim that land, and if only 2 of them sign it, the other 3 technically can come back and say, that's mine, no longer yours. So just be clear on that. Now, the reason why so many people have issues in Sierra Leone is this. People come to Africa in general, but specifically Sierra Leone, and because they know that they can take shortcuts on certain things, they take shortcuts on everything. There are systems in place, whether you think they're stupid, whether you don't think you need to follow those processes. A lot of people will just buy land on a handshake deal. They haven't done the research to make sure it's not registered under that person with the city. Like anything bought in Freetown or even around Freetown should be in the Ministry of Lands, or whatever you call it, whatever the ministry is. But it's there. It's written in document form. So when you buy it, it tells you who actually owns that land, and actually the size of that land, right? You have to confirm it with beacons, and you need to have a surveyor to confirm it. But you actually need to check with them first to make sure that that person who sold you that land actually owns the land. That's number one. A lot of people don't even do that. So a lot of people get sold land by someone who doesn't even own it. So really, they just learned an expensive lesson. So that's number one. Number two is there are 2 stages to actually accruing and owning that land. One is just doing the surveillance, signing some documentation, having a receipt saying thank you for the purchase, whatever. But you still need to make sure you register it with Freetown. Yeah. So even though I bought land in Bow, we had to have that person come to Freetown, get the proper signatures, and register it in Freetown. So that document has to come to Freetown. Whether you use a lawyer or you know someone at the office or whatever, has to come to Freetown, and it has to get signed. The conveyance has to get signed. So let me give you guys a little bit of an example of what that looks like, since it's right next to me.
Thank you so much. You guys, make sure you're following him. And if you have more questions, as you heard him say, he does consultations. He does a lot of things. Reach out to him and work with him, okay? Make sure you guys are following him as well. And tune in, because he goes live every Monday. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow and support him. I will be there. I will
appreciate
join.
it. Thank you.
So, yeah.
So this is a conveyance. It's not on a regular 8x11 sheet of paper. It's a long sheet of paper. I don't know why it's that way, but it's that way. So I have all of mine physically. I have pictures. I have all kinds of copies. Different people have pictures of it. I've scanned it. I have digital copies, and I have physical copies. I travel with the physical copy everywhere I go. Okay? I don't know if there's going to be a fire in this house one day or whatever. I got these copies.
Smart.
Now, there also are copies at the Ministry of, where is it? The Ministry of Land. But so this was the where I'm currently staying. This is the documentation for where I'm currently staying right here. This is what I'm looking at. It literally says the people who are involved in the acquisition of this land and who sold it to us. All right here. And so that's what it looks like. And you have all these stamps on it. You're going to have all these signatures, all kinds of different stamps and signatures. That shows that everybody who is supposed to be involved in the process has signed off on it. You got to pay a little bit to different people, different times, different amounts to get that done, but you have to do that. So not everybody does this. They think that they're done when they just sign over the document. You have to do this to ensure that people can't squat or lay claim to your land. Okay, here's the other thing. If you have someone staying on your land, let's say you have a caretaker, that caretaker needs to be paying you rent. There are some other things that I've heard where those people have later said the land was given to me, and if they're not paying rent for some whatever reason, it gets interpreted, and I think it's maybe how lawyers have interpreted the Constitution and the law here, into saying that that person can actually now take over ownership of that land.
Wow.
So you need to ensure that they're paying you some kind of rent and that you're keeping track of it with receipts. So that's also very important. So I think that there are nuances and things that you need to know. I mean, I gave a lot here, but there's a lot more than that. But those are the basics, right? Like if you are considering buying land, it's like I said, it's easy. It's an easy transaction. Money, land. It's not simple though, because there are many steps that are required and that you need to know. And you make sure you stay abreast of the laws and the rules and the changes if there are any changes, because if you don't, you end up in a situation where you just gave somebody money and you got nothing in return.
Right. No shortcuts.
No shortcuts.
Thank you so much. Let me read because there's a lot of engagement going on. And I appreciate all of you guys that are commenting, that are asking questions. Una, thank you so much. Everyone that's joining,
Absolutely.
thank you so much. Idris, something. I can't say it all. Said, bro, let's link up. I'm from
I thought you were about to say
Germany.
just Elba.
Send him, send him
I
a
was like,
message
where? He's
if
on
you
the
wanna.
live?
If you want to link up with him, send him a message. Anyone who's interested to know more, to book him for a consultation regarding land, make sure you guys reach out to him. Authentic
Yeah,
African
if you
is
go
a
to
real.
Authentic African, the Instagram page, one of the links is a link tree. In that link tree, you can just click on the book 101 consultation. It's right there, and you'll be able to book one.
Right. Somebody said many people trust people too much in Sierra Leone. That is true. Don't trust people. Go by paper. Go by the legalities of things. Somebody said,
Yeah, and I will say, anywhere where there's poverty, there's desperation.
right.
Right? So you're going to have family members. I mean, I don't know how many stories I've heard about family members stealing money and doing all that stuff too.
Yeah.
So just don't be surprised. That happens here. That happens not just here, though. That happens in a lot of places on the continent. It happens in a lot of places around the world.
Right, yeah.
But we're speaking specifically to Sierra Leone. But yeah, I mean, it happens. And so you just need to make sure. I say, there's that saying, trust but verify. I don't trust and I verify.
Right.
There's no trust.
I agree.
And I don't ever recommend someone and say, I trust this person. I just say, I trust that they can do the work that I asked them to do.
Right. I like that.
That's what I will say.
I agree. Somebody, let me go back. So much. You guys are all these comments. Hold on. Authentic African is the real deal. He sure is. Make sure you guys follow him. There was a question. Many people. Okay.
It's a lot of engagement. You're right. I'm
It
just
is.
scrolling through. I never really
Watch
scrolled through.
out for land that is owned by others, but people sell them. They just go over that. Somebody said,
Yeah.
what can we do as diaspora to help develop Sierra Leone? And then Troy said, what are some lucrative industries someone can start on in Salon? One to
Okay.
create
So let me start with
opportunities.
the first one.
He said one to create opportunities and two to profit.
Okay. So the first question was, wait, what was the first question again? Because I interrupted you.
Was what can we do as diaspora to help develop Sierra Leone?
Okay, yes. So I believe, much like the United States and other countries, although they use free labor, entrepreneurship is where it's going to be. It's not going to be through government. Everybody's always hoping for a government to save them. You're going to have to do it through businesses. So there's kind of a cyclical thing happening. So as more diasporans come to visit, start building, start coming, you're employing people automatically. I've employed a number of different people just through building this house, right? So that's one. So that just gets more money circulating in the economy, right? So you're coming to invest in buying land and building. So that's one. Which means other businesses benefit, right? There's a widespread effect, right? Because those people are making money, those people can actually go out and buy things.
Right.
So that's one. So I think it's going to happen through the private sector. It's going to happen through businesses. So you come and start a business, you can employ people. You come and invest in businesses, they can employ more people. So that's kind of what I would say in terms of how you can make an impact. Now, specific industries that were asked. Any industry that automates some of the manual processes here. So what does that mean? So like brick making and bricklaying. If you have a machine and you have a generator, you can now rent that to every other contractor that is trying to make bricks quickly, you know, so that they can get this part of the process done so they can move on to the next project that they're working on, right? Yeah. So I would say anything that you can automate. But what I will also say, though, is the normal ways that people automate are different here than what you would automate a business in the United States, meaning you have to have contingencies in place for additional things like no light. So like I said, if you're going to have a brick making machine, you better have a generator that can support that brick making machine, and a portable one. So if you're going to rent it out to someone, they have to take the generator and the brick making machine. So yeah. So anything that automates manual processes, I would say that works across any industry. You can figure it out what makes sense, but that makes sense. Another thing is affordable housing for short-term stays. So no matter what people complain about, people are still coming in and out of Sierra Leone. And they use platforms that they're used to, like Airbnb. And Airbnb, there are many places on Airbnb ridiculously priced. And the reason for that is because there are people who spend a lot of money when they come here. So, sorry, just messaging. So yeah, so Airbnb is a good way to do things. I mean, Airbnb is not going to be super huge and lucrative, but it's a way to generate some income in the country. So being able to just rent a space, short-term rentals, and the main thing that I would say to you as a business owner, the main thing that I would say is if you have a business that's going to have a small amount of customers, then you're going to need to be able to charge a larger amount of money. And the people that you're going to be able to do that with are going to be the people who are coming from the diaspora or that are expats that are not even non-Africans. So you're going to want to have things that make their lives easier, right? So you can figure out what that might be as long as you do more market research. You have to come here and be here in person and survey people and just live on the ground for a little bit to know what makes sense. But you definitely want to offer solutions to people who are coming here hoping for a life that is similar to what they're used to. So yeah, so I would say those things. Transportation is another one, right? People do transportation. You know, if you do a like a Toyota Hiace, a 15-passenger Toyota Hiace, which they don't sell in the United States, so most people who are watching this from the U.S. probably don't even know what I'm talking about. It is a vehicle that's a 15-passenger like van that Toyota sells. They just don't sell them in the States. But you could do that from Freetown to Bow and back. Once, twice a day even, depending on, you know, the driver you have and how early you leave and how soon people fill it up. But you can do that, and you can buy multiples of those, and that could be a reoccurring revenue stream. So there are many different ways that you can make some money and employ some people. There are other things too. If you're importing other things like cereals, snacks, foods that people are used to in the States, and you have access to making sure it's available here, that can also be a lucrative business, as long as you're selling at the right price point. But I would say for the most part, when it comes to making really big businesses in this part of the world, you want to be targeting high net worth individuals, especially in a country that is smaller in size, right? So yeah. Any other questions that you saw?
Thank you. Somebody said, oh, hold on. Oh my gosh. Yeah, these comments. Um,
And by the way, that was one of the solutions that I was going to say is to no jobs is you guys come. Like I would say what's important is this. I'm going to talk about the real, right? What the real challenges
yeah.
are, but I'm also not going to deter people from coming, and I'm not going to sit on the internet and complain about it all day.
Yeah.
Right? Because at the end of the day, complaining solves nothing.
Right.
Right? You got to be solution driven, not problem driven.
Right.
That's the problem with most of the world, actually. Most of the world just likes to complain and wants governments to take care of them. That's not how anybody succeeds, right? You have to step in and step up.
I agree.
So I would say that any of you guys who live in Sierra Leone who have a lot of issues, I think you need to start working and talking to people who seem to have solutions, right? So and those of you who are looking to improve Sierra Leone, come to forums like this to talk about ways to improve it, and then look at ways to actually execute on those things.
Right.
If you know someone who's an executor, someone who actually follows through with the things that they say,
yeah,
make sure you're giving them ideas on things to do.
Yeah.
But if all we do is complain, it's just going to be a perpetual cycle of complaining and nothing's going to change. And you're also telling other people there's no need to come here.
Yeah.
Right? Like, why would I go somewhere with all people do is complain about that place? Why would I even go?
I agree.
And so if we want to see it improve, we also need to talk about solutions.
Yeah, you're right. Someone said it happens in Guinea too. Many of my friends complain about it every time we meet.
Yeah.
Let me see. Troy said, I agree. Private sector will be making the positive change.
Yes.
Let me see. He also, oh my God. He also said, well, someone said it will take community to transform our country. Let me go up.
Yes.
Oh, I can't even go up.
That's true.
Let me scroll here because I can't even go up.
That was Zinga that was saying that. Yeah, I think that's so true. I mean, and I think like something like this is a community, right?
Yeah. Troy had said something. Let me go up because my other phone is not even. I don't know what's going on. He said, "Would you say?"
You got multiple phones, of course.
He said, "Would you say the luxury market has increased in Sierra Leone?"
Yes. So the luxury market, I think, is always going to be here, right? So you have this. There are many countries like this, but the disparity between the rich and the poor is huge. But there is a high end, very, very high end group of people here. And it will surprise you how many and how much these people have.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, if you're in with them and you have their word of mouth to other people, then yeah, your luxury goods, whatever they might be, will be sold to each one of them.
Yeah.
They frequent the same places. They all know each other. They kind of operate in a world of their own, right? They're insulated from many of the challenges that you have here because they have their own hangout spots. They have their own communities. They go to their own places. They go to their own places to eat, all that kind of stuff. But there will always be that. Was there more of one, or did it seem like there was more previously? Yes, when we had a much more abundance. I don't know if I'm using the right word, but basically there was a much bigger mining industry at one point in time in Sierra Leone, where you had people coming in and doing a lot of mining, spending significant amounts of money, which I think is what drove the real estate prices up to begin with in the first place. But yeah, I mean, there's still a luxury market, and there will always be a luxury market because there are always going to be people who, if you make $500,000, that is more than any. That is like the top 0.0001% around the world.
Right.
Right. But 500,000 living in New York City is different from 500,000 living in Sierra Leone. There's a point where you reach a certain threshold where if you make that much money, you literally live better than anyone else, but you live an even better life here in Sierra Leone if you make that much money. So there's always going to be those people who make enough money that could live anywhere in the world, but they choose here because it's so much easier for them when you make that kind of money and you live here. You're in paradise.
Right.
Like you can literally be in paradise here if you make that kind of money. So there are always going to be people here,
Gotcha.
no matter what happens in this country. And I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, if there's like an all-out civil war, they'll leave. But generally, they're here and they enjoy themselves very much so.
Right. Someone said, I would say the creative goods industry also has a lot of potential. Um,
The issue with the creative industry is okay, music already doesn't make money, right? Musicians don't make money generally. Let's talk about in America. You see, Taylor Swift is complaining about streaming. She sells more records than 99% of the people who make music, right?
right.
So, so music doesn't make money for the artist unless they go on tour. You're talking about a country where there aren't a lot of people to consume your music. Same thing with there's not a ton of people to consume your art of other kinds of art. So I would say, the creative industry could always use more people to join in and to offer their insights and to help progress
Yeah.
it. And I would say that you can still make a living, but most people will say, don't go in the music industry unless you want to be
Yeah.
broke, because most musicians are not doing very well for themselves financially. It's just very difficult. It's just a difficult industry overall.
Yeah.
So we're in a country where things are like tangible, right? Like goods. People are buying goods.
Yeah.
That's probably where you're going to generate the most income for yourself and hire the most people.
Yeah. So she said that she was talking about craft wise. She said not music or film. And
Okay.
then she also
Like,
said we need to
okay,
build,
crafts.
she also said we need to build a sector. And then
Okay.
someone said, hi,
Okay,
dear.
well, with crafts,
Go ahead.
oh, go
Sorry.
ahead, go ahead.
No, you go ahead because this is another.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, look, if you can employ people doing it, I think it's great. Um, people do buy like fans. There are things that people buy, right? Like carvings and stuff like that. But again, it's finding the right user base that'll actually purchase it from you, right? So if there's anything you're making in a creative space, like one thing that Senegalese have done well is their baskets. These Senegalese baskets that are like laundry
Mhm.
baskets. They sell those outside of Senegal, right? People buy them everywhere. So if you can figure out as someone who's a crafts person, what people are willing to purchase, then it might work here
Yeah.
in country or with the diasporans that are here in country. So yeah.
Yeah. She also said in the States, the Black community is talking about investing in art. And then she said export. Excuse me. And then so this is off topic, but somebody said, um, let's see. Hi there. I'm from Mozambique. I think that's how you say it. I would like to ask for a financial lesson. I think that would be a topic for another day. Um, thank you
That's
for
another
joining
day.
us. But yeah, I think that would be another day. Today's topic is the airport fees and other issues that are going on. I know you said you would be with us for an hour, and it's been over an hour. I don't want to overdo it. Thank you again so much, Joe, for all the
You're welcome.
information that you poured into us, because a lot of us did not know these things, honestly speaking, and I appreciate everything. We appreciate it. Thank you guys for commenting. Thank you for asking him questions. Make sure you guys follow him. And if you have additional questions regarding land and things of that nature, he has everything in his bio. Go on his page, reach out to him, and work with him. Okay. What he said, financial literacy is a keyhole of the conversation, and it's tricky because it depends on where you reside. Right. But yeah, thank you so much, Joe. I don't want to take any more of your time. I appreciate it. Thank you. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow. As he said, he goes live every Monday. So when I go there, when I engage the same way, keep the same energy, the same way when I engage with time, with
Yes.
give you all the information today. When I go and also engage 9 page. Thank you again so much, Joe.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm looking forward to doing this again at some point in
Yes,
time in
of
the future.
course. I'll definitely keep you posted. I appreciate it.
Okay, cool.
Alrighty.
Sounds good. All right, bye guys. Bye,
Bye.
Meyer.
Bye.
Okay, cool. So that was the live. If you want to see more conversations like this, you definitely want to head over to the Sierra Leoneans Killing It Instagram page and also the Authentic African Instagram page. Both the links will be in the description. And then, of course, there are going to be many more conversations like this that I will continue to have with you. So if you want to see more of those, make sure you subscribe to this content. Share this with anybody you know who might be interested in learning more about what's happening in Sierra Leone. So with that, guys, thanks for watching. See you all in the next video. Alright guys, if you like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, like, comment, and share it with your friends. Alright, see you on the next video.